Hi everybody, welcome. I'm Kate. I'm the Programs and Outreach Manager here at the Schaumburg Township District Library. A few housekeeping items before we get started. If you haven't silenced your cell phones yet, please do that now. And then bathrooms are out any of these doors to your left, kind of along the back wall of the library. And that's it for housekeeping. I just want to say on behalf of the library, we are so proud to be hosting this candidate forum today. It is our goal, to always be providing you with access to information, which is so important when participating in civic life like this. So, and we also know that the League of Women Voters does such a phenomenal job of running the forums, ensuring a fair and nonpartisan process for everyone. So with that, I will introduce Vicki Martin with the League.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Vicki Martin. I'm one of the forum chairmen for the League of Women Voters of the Palatine area. Our league serves the entire Palatine area, including Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates, Barrington, Inverness, all the areas with whom Palatine shares contiguous borders and most of our government representation. Before we proceed with today's forums, we'd like to ask that all of us take a moment to reflect on the reason that we're really here. Our elections are the foundation of the democracy that makes our country what it is. As citizens, we have a duty to participate in that process. So with that in mind, we'd like to ask that all of you who would like to, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and we would like to extend our thanks to the Schaumburg Library, who is always an excellent partner for us to work with. They make this job so much easier and everything goes so smoothly. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that neither supports, opposes, or endorses any candidate or party. Any viewpoints voiced by the candidates are their own, and the League does not fact-check statements during the forums. We ask that all of the candidates please refrain from attributing comments or viewpoints to opposing candidates. And to ensure that the questions for today's forum represented a balance of issues, we solicited topics from the candidates and the community at large. Questions for today's forum were prepared in advance and prioritized using the feedback that we received. They were vetted by a bipartisan team of League members. Questions deemed to be negative or directed at any specific candidate were eliminated. Because the questions were prepared in advance, we will not be taking questions from the audience today. So now I'm pleased to introduce our moderator for today's forum, Kim Inman. Kim is a current co-president of the League of Women Voters of the Palatine area. Kim has been trained by the League of Women Voters and has moderated in many forums. So she's very experienced and we're lucky to have her today. So, Kim.
Thank you, Vicki. Can you all hear me? All right. I have a little throat issue today, so excuse me if I move to my cough drops. I'll keep my comments brief, and we really want to hear the candidates, not me anyway. I'm so happy to be here moderating this forum. As a resident of Palatine, I am not eligible to vote in this election, so I am here as an impartial facilitator for the discussion. All right, let me take a few minutes to explain the format that we're going to use. Some of the questions for the candidates were submitted by the audience when they registered. Others came from the candidates themselves or from local nonpartisan organizations. All questions were vetted to represent the topics of interest to this particular audience, and every effort has been made to word each question in a neutral, nonpartisan manner that will allow every candidate to present themselves in the best possible light. All of the candidates have agreed to abide by the following ground rules. I, as the moderator, will rotate the speaking order that we have drawn numbers just a few minutes ago, and we will rotate the speaking order. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement. Then each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. I will repeat the question if necessary. If needed, a rebuttal may be requested, and each candidate will receive a maximum of 2 rebuttals. Rebuttals will be timed and limited to 30 seconds each. At the end, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. Okay, here in the front row, we have our timers for from the League of Women Voters. They will, we'll have the signs go up at the 30-second and the 15-second warning time. And please quickly, candidates, complete your thoughts before the stop sign goes up. If you're in the middle of a sentence, of course, you can carry on. Our time limits will be enforced out of respect for all the candidates. And candidates have been asked not to interrupt each other. We also ask you, the audience, to behave in a courteous and respectful manner. Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. Anyone booing or heckling the candidates will be asked to leave. Please remember that each of these candidates are your neighbors. They have devoted enormous amounts of time, effort, and sometimes money in their effort to represent our community. They deserve our gratitude and respect, regardless of their viewpoint on the issues. Today's forum will be recorded for the League of Women Voters to use in educating the public. A video of this forum will be available next week on the League of Women Voters of the Palatine Area's website. It'll be a YouTube video. And also the Schaumburg Library website. The candidates have all agreed to this, and no image, voice, or other duplication of the forum may be used in a candidate's by a candidate or the candidate's campaign. So it's only for use for the library and for the League of Women Voters. We retain copyright ownership of all recordings or transcripts produced from this event, and the League reserves the right to publicize this forum. To view this forum, you can go on the League of Women Voters of the Palatine Area website or the Schaumburg Library website. Again, probably on ours will probably be available on Monday, so check then after the weekend. All right, today we have 4 candidates here vying for 4 seats. 3 seats, I'm sorry. Typo. 4 candidates for 3 seats on the Schaumburg Township Library Board. All right, each seat is for a 4-year term, and with us today on the ballot, I'm going to go in the order that they chose, that we drew the numbers. First is Teresa. We're going by first name, so I'm going to give her the whole name today. Teresa Syring will be going first. Matthew Smith will be going second. Jillian Rose Bernes Garcia will be going third. And John, I'm sorry, I forgot to catch your pronunciation of your last name, John. Caparelli. John Caparelli will be going fourth on opening statements, and will be rotating. Erin Flanagan Davies is not here today. She had a prior commitment. She's unable to attend, but she submitted a statement that will be read at the end of the forum when all the candidates make their closing statements. Okay, so let's move on. Time for me to stop talking and the candidates to start. We'll have our 2-minute opening statements, and again, by number draw, Terry is going to be going first.
Good morning. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to participate in this nonpartisan forum. And I thank our library for hosting us. I also want to thank all of you for your interest in attending this morning. My husband Gary and I have been residents in Schaumburg for over 40 years and raised our 2 sons here. In a previous life, I was a 1st and 2nd grade teacher in another community. As a volunteer, I have worked with Shelter Incorporated, which provides community-based emergency and long-term housing for children and adolescent victims of neglect or abuse. I was a parent member who trained for the shared decision-making team with District 54, working on such items as a new report card and attending in-service days with the staff. I am completing my 2nd 4-year term on the board. During my tenure, I have been asked to serve as treasurer by 3 different board presidents. I have worked with fellow board members to search, interview, and hire 2 different library executive directors. In 2017, Money Magazine listed Schaumburg as one of the 10 best places to live in the U.S. Among the reasons for this conclusion was our highly accredited library. We are also one of the largest public libraries in the state. I will work to maintain our 3 facilities and build on their success. Our patrons and regular users have come to expect a high degree of services. We have a responsibility to keep our community the well-informed citizens they deserve to be.
Thank you, Terry. Going second on opening statement is Matthew.
Yeah. Hey everybody, good morning. So my name is Matthew Smith, and obviously I'm running for Schaumburg Township District Library Trustee. I want to as well thank the League of Women Voters and the library for hosting us, and all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to you. I am, compared to some other of the people on the board, I am newer to the area. I moved here 2 years ago. I was born here in Schaumburg Township actually, and I grew up in Indianapolis. And in my time there, I started my family, was active with my community down there. I was on the Board of Zoning Appeals and Advisory Planning Commission, and was very active with my community there. Since moving here, I've been active with the school board. I have 2 young children, so I'm a parent representative on Schaumburg District 54 school, the Budget and Legislative Committee. And career-wise, I am a certified safety professional, so my job every day is to make sure that everybody goes home exactly in the same condition they came in. And I hope to use that kind of knowledge that I've built up over my career to help the patrons of the library as well as the staff enjoy a safe and compliant workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Next, Jillian, opening statement.
Excellent. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jillian Rose Bernis Garcia, and I am pleased to be before you and present myself as a candidate for the Schaumburg Township District Library Board. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting us, as well as the Schaumburg Township District Library for hosting us, and for all of you, family and friends, for being here today. And thanks to people who have been helping me on my campaign as well. It hasn't been just me out there, it's other people who are helping and supporting. And finally, I want to thank my family as well. They permit me the opportunity to serve my community. My husband is helping right now take care of my 3 and 1-year-olds, and then my parents and my mother-in-law who always help out when he's not able to. And so that provides me the opportunity to serve my community, because I want to live in a good community. That's why I run for library board. That's why I'm active in different committees, mental health committee for the township, the Schaumburg Township Historical Society, and the Rotary Schaumburg AM Club. I take active roles to make sure that we are building a good community. Many people have come before us who have served for many years to make sure, in volunteer roles, I should say, to make sure that we have outstanding services. And so they dedicate their time and they take time away from their families to be here and do the work. And so that's why I want to run, that's why I want to serve. My parents moved here because it was a stellar community in the 80s. I was born and raised here in Schaumburg, and so I just want to make sure it continues for many generations to come, and that's why my husband Angel and I choose to live here, and that's why I choose to serve and run for library board. I'm Jillian Rose Bernis Garcia. You can go to votejillian.com for more information if you want to look for ways to help out or support the campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. And John is next for an opening statement.
Yeah, I just want to echo the sentiments before everybody here and for this forum. So I have a speech here that was written by my speechwriter. No, I'm just joking. I'm running for the library board of Schaumburg Township District Library because of my strong support for the library. It's a treasure to our Schaumburg Township community with the variety of materials and programs it offers. It's an important cornerstone of our community by allowing the community to grow and prosper from an educational and cultural awareness perspective. As a resident of Schaumburg Township for over 25 years, I have a dedication to our community by serving on numerous village committees and a former Schaumburg Township trustee. I've dedicated time and effort to see that Schaumburg Township continues to provide a wealth of benefits to the people like myself who live and work here. I'm determined to ensure that Schaumburg Township Library continues to provide quality resources, programs, and services to meet the needs of our community now and in the future. With my internal audit background, I would be a dependable trustee, to the library patron and the taxpayer. I would continually review the library to see how it can add value to the community it serves and improve organizational operations from a policy and procedures point of view. With its over 1 million visitors that browse, stacks, or makes use of its resources, the Library Township Library Board needs a dedicated, dependable, determined, dedicated board member. A board member who will ensure that the smooth operation of the library with compliance with laws and regulations and best practices of a modern library. It also needs an important objective watchdog, and I hope to be that person who will be qualified as this trustee, because I feel that I will look at the operations from a risk management perspective. I will review accounting operations and make sure that everything is operating up to standards.
Thank you all for your opening statements, and now we're going to move on to the question portion of our forum. We're going to start now with Matthew. We'll be alternating our starting candidates, and the first question is, what was the driving force behind your decision to run for the library trustee, and what do you hope to accomplish? I'll read it one more time. What was the driving force behind your decision to run for library trustee, and what do you hope to accomplish? 1 minute.
Sure. So, as I mentioned before, I have 2 small children, and the kind of community that I want for my 2 small children, the only way that you can know that that's the kind of community they're going to get is to be active. So what's best, for my children is going to be, I hope, best for everybody, and that's what drives me to run, is to, and to be active in other ways as well, is to make sure that my children have the kind of community that they can be proud of when they grow up and have their own lives. And for the second part of the question, I'm sorry, the second part.
What do you hope to accomplish?
What do I hope to accomplish? So I hope to accomplish moving the library forward in a path that is less physical media and opening it up to more people that are accessing materials through digital means. And with that 15 seconds, I'll just.
All right, thank you. All right, Jillian, what was the driving force behind your decision to run, and what do you hope to accomplish?
It's the very same driving force that encouraged me to run 8 years ago. This will be my 3rd term. I'm running for re-election. I currently sit as the president of the Schaumburg Township District Library Board, and that's to be the voice of the community on the board. And so we have an executive director. She serves in a role of representing the library and making sure that all the needs and interests of the library are brought to the board. Therefore, my role as one of 7 trustees is to make sure I'm listening to my community members. I'm actively attending events. I'm engaging in conversations with them so I can bring that back to the executive director. And then I'm also making sure that library ideas are being done in the context of our budget and what we're able to do. And so moving forward, I'm looking forward to the 2nd floor renovation. I know our capital assets really need to be carefully followed. I hope after that we can look at the branches and make improvements there as well. And so there's some pretty exciting things that are coming to our library, and we just have to be ready for them. Hope to serve as that future kind of perspective.
Thank you. John, what was the driving force behind your decision?
Well, I guess I'm going to go back to my opening statement, and that is to be a determined and dedicated, dependable candidate. Dedicate to my community. Obviously, I have a family here, and I'd love to see the library that we here prosper, and I think it's really a cornerstone in our community from an educational and cultural awareness perspective. And I'd like to think of myself as a dependable candidate in the sense of having an internal audit background and financial oversight. I think the issue that's important to me is accessibility. There is certainly I believe, a digital divide out there, and to make sure that there is accessibility for all patrons of the library, and that the taxpayers' dollars are being used from a value-added perspective, that they're getting the bang for their buck. So,
thank you. Terry.
I have run before 2 terms, and people always ask me, why are you running? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have run before 2 terms. I would greatly appreciate a 3rd term. I work very hard at it. But people do ask that question, and they say, do you have an issue? What are you worried about? Is there something wrong at the library? And I always tell people, no. I'm running because we have this highly accredited library The community here has supported libraries since, I guess it was the 60s when we had our library in the old house, and then our library on Library Lane, which is the library my children grew up in. And it's a high priority in this community, and I only run for the sake of the library. This community has always supported it, they're passionate. I want to keep it one of the highest rated libraries in the state of Illinois. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, question 2 now is, which library board subcommittee will you ask to serve on? And what special skills would make your serving on the committee a good fit? I'll read it one more time because it's 2 parts. Which library board subcommittee will you ask to serve on? And what special skills will make your serving on the committee a good fit? And this question, we're going to start with Jillian.
Sure, so I currently serve on the Strategic Planning Committee, and that is a committee that we did a lot of work about a year and a half ago. So in 2021, we went through and looked at all of our elements of the library and put together a strategic plan. And so our focus now is on being connected, it's on being future ready, it's on being agile. So we're focused on everything we do in the short term is leading toward those long-term goals. So that's a priority for me, and I'd like to continue on that committee. Then another committee that I think is really important is making sure the buildings are, and that's a committee everyone serves on, so I guess it's not like something you can necessarily say you want to be a part of or not, but making sure that our infrastructure is taken care of, that tax dollars are spent wisely, and that it's going to help make sure we're ready for the future.
Thank you. John.
Well, I'm open to serving on any one of the committees, but I think, from the perspective of what I bring to the table is financial oversight, making sure that best practices are being followed from a internal control perspective. As internal auditor, you're opening up the hood and you're looking to see as to whether, in fact, what the risks are and whether those risks are being managed. And I think it goes true with any one of the committees, and it's that perspective that is needed from the patrons' perspective and from the taxpayers' perspective, and knowing that the operations is running up to best practices and up to the expectations from a quality perspective. So,
Thank you. Next on this is Terry.
I've been treasurer for 4 years. I chair the finance committee, which is a good fit for me. I work closely with our financial director. We meet each month. I study the balance sheets, the income statements, the record of our investments, and our cash flow projection, and present a report at each board meeting. I have served on the personnel committee for 5 years. We reviewed and updated policies, prepared and submitted documents to the board for discussion. We helped to prepare the new employee handbook. I'm currently head of the art committee. We will be working to complete art design for the first floor, which will also include installation of a new donor wall. We will also be studying further art design on the second floor, and would like to explore working with an art consulting group which supports free art programs in underserved schools. And I think I would serve on any committee that they needed me for. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew.
Yeah, I'd echo the sentiments of Teresa and John. I'm open to any committee where my skills fit. So in my workplace, what I do is make sure that our employees, as I said, go home the same way that they came in. And to do that, we have several audits that we do, safety audits. We have several areas where we look at performative maintenance. So we look around our machines and we say, hey, look, is this machine running properly? Is this machine going to hurt anyone? Is it in the same condition as the day we bought it? And that's the kind of mindset that I'd like to bring to the library. As Jillian mentioned, there's not necessarily a subcommittee. It's everybody's job to do that here. But I'd really like to dig in with our maintenance team and see what kind of training, what kind of resources that we can provide them as a board. For example, I am an instructor in OSHA 10 and OSHA 30. I'm a first aid CPR AED instructor through the American Red Cross. And those are things that I do that can help further our library's
next question is, for how many years have you held a Schaumburg library card, and what library services have you used over the past year? I'll read it again. For how many years have you held a Schaumburg library card, and what library services have you used over the past year? And we're moving down, and John is the first respondent on this question.
Well, I've held the library card from day one, from being a Schaumburg Township resident, and I quite extensively use the resources here. I truly believe it's really a gem to our community in terms of what it provides, and I've used it my own studies. I was working on a master's in public administration. I was using the resources for that. I brought my kids here for a number of the programs, and whenever they had any school projects, I was here for them to work them through, making sure that the resources that they need for that project that they were attended to. So I truly believe that there's so many things that this library provides from an educational and cultural awareness perspective that there's no end to its what it provides to our community. So.
Thank you. Mary?
I moved to Schaumburg over 40 years ago, as I mentioned, and I got my first library card around that time. I don't know exactly when. Over the years, I discovered a myriad of services that never existed when I was a shelver in my junior high library. Some years ago, when taking my earliest computer classes, I appreciated my patient library instructor. I am grateful for Hulu. I love our online programming and recorded events when I can't make it in person to the library. I love our author visits. I am hoping my seed garden is fruitful. I so appreciate the tips I have learned from our genealogy staff as I search my family's ancestry. No surprise, the first place I check is new releases in biographies and history. I enjoy and attend all of our cultural celebrations and programs, and I appreciate the service our library provides as a community meeting place where all are welcome to continue lifelong learning.
Thank you. Matthew, you're the next.
Sure. So my library card, being that I'm the newest person here, is probably the newest out of all of us. But every day I'm learning new services that this library provides to the community. For example, I had been using an Audible subscription for a long time to get audiobooks. When I travel, I like listening to audiobooks, but through the library you can access those for free. My children really love, my son especially really loves the ability to check out Switch games before he comes to me and asks me to go buy them for him. My daughter loves the graphic novels. Actually, I just returned 2 books from my children today. But I also love the courses that the library provides, the English as a second language courses, the adult learning courses, and I hope to see that it go into the future stronger.
Thank you. All right, and Jillian.
So I think what's wonderful about our library and why I think it's a great place to serve is that it's multi-generational, so you can use it from when you're a baby all the way through the remainder of your life. And we've also made an improvement in our policies so that you don't have to renew your card. If you want to, you can have it for your whole life and not have to update it every so often. We're able to do that because of technology. And so I've had my card since I can remember. I was born, I guess. We used to go over to the library on Library Lane and use the services there. And so I used it for book reports, research when I was a student. Then when I got into a professional role, I used it for travel magazines. I used to travel quite extensively. I use it now in my current work to look at different important textbooks about engineering and architecture to be able to communicate the mission, vision, and values of my company. And so I just look forward to, and then my husband obviously and I take joy in bringing our children here, playing in the Enchanted Forest and using different kits to build things. And so I guess it's a wonderful place to be.
Thank you. All right, we've rotated all the way down the line. We're going to start at this end of the table for the next question. And it is, what is your vision for the library board's role in the community? It's a two-parter. What are your ideas for making sure the library is able to meet the needs of the diverse community? I'll read it again. What is your vision for the library board's role in the community? And what are your ideas for making sure the library is able to meet the needs of the diverse community? And we're starting with Terry on this one.
Two-part question. A few years ago, we wanted to know more about the residents we serve in this township. We engaged the Rob Peral Research Organization to help us be even more aware of our community's likes and needs. We use the information when ordering books, newspapers, magazines. We consider music and film options. We consider a variety of programming. We assist patrons with digital literacy issues in order to help them find that information. They need request instruction. We are able to provide materials for patrons of all ages. We have materials for parents of children with special needs or sensory issues. The research was very helpful. The Library for the Future, all libraries are becoming community centers, meeting places, places to continue lifelong learning, and I would like to be a part of the future of this great library. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew?
So I'd like to take this question to talk about content in our libraries. I've been increasingly concerned from some, I'll call them vocal minorities of the community, who think that certain subjects should not be available to our community. Subjects that have to do with the LGBTQ community, subjects that have to do, that they think are more mature than what it should be provided to the community and provided in especially children's sections. Personally, as a father of 2 young children, I do not believe in that type of censorship and would not support those kinds of efforts. I'd like to see a library where, just as we have today, where we rely on the recommendations of the American Library Association on what is appropriate for our children, and a board that doesn't insert themselves in those kind of situations.
Thank you. Next candidate to answer is Jillian.
So I see the board's role in the community as being, like I have said before, the voice of the community to our executive director. So she is taking care of our library and bringing needs and wants of the library to us, and then we're kind of sharing what the community members are telling us and how they're sharing things with us. So everything that I am ever told, or in conversation, in email, in phone call, I share with our executive director, anonymously of course, but I try to make sure that all of that is communicated so that there's a balance. And we need to recognize that all of our libraries, our schools, are all community-based. They're all, we benefit from a very generous tax base, and that there's a multitude of voices in the community that deserve respect on the board. And so that's my role, and I think that's what the board should, that's its role as well. And as far as meeting the needs of our community, we've done a lot to make sure our libraries advance, especially with e-library and then with technologies.
Thank you. And next, John.
So I'm gonna put on my internal audit hat here, and that is, I think I would look at the vision, making sure that we're obviously following best practices from an operational standpoint, making sure that the vision is meeting the needs just not now, but for the future, and making sure that we address those risks, any risks that might come up. So I think that's important, and knowing that the library patrons' needs are being met, and obviously that the taxpayers, that their tax dollars are, they're getting the bang for the buck. One of the things I think is important is accessibility, making sure that the programs that are available are available to everybody in the community, and I think that's a burning issue, and it will continue to be as we have this digital divide, that some people have the resources and maybe others don't.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our next question. question, and it is, does the library board have a role in selecting library books, publications, or online materials? And if so, what is that role? Does the library board have a role in selecting library books, publications, or online materials? And if so, what is that role? And it is Matthew's turn to start on this one.
Yeah, so to continue from my answer from the last one, the American Library Association accredits books, and they said these are the types of books that should be available in our libraries, and I trust our librarians to make the right decision for our community. I don't even need the full minute. That's all I got to say about that. So.
Okay, thank you. Julian?
So I would say that our board is reflective of the community, and it should be a reflection of our community. And so therefore, there are books that we trust our librarians to curate, look after. The American Library Association, the Illinois Library Association, they look out for libraries. I know they're often working on best practices for board members and things like that. But I quite frankly think that I have a duty and obligation to my community and the people, my neighbors, the people I interact with every day. And so we do have procedures and processes. If there is a concern you might have about a material, to communicate to us and to our executive director. We also have a process if you're looking for something that our library isn't offering to communicate that to us as well. So I think our board has a role of being a representative of our community. Libraries and schools look different in different places, and so we need to make sure that's communicated to our leadership at the library.
Thank you. John, it's your turn.
Well, I think as a public library, I think it still says on the front door, public library. I mean, the fact of the matter is that information has to be with a diversity of opinion, be it, I think in today's world, we like to label people, far right, far left, but, the fact of the matter is you have to have that diversity of opinion, and it's a public library, so there has to be that public information, whatever that public information might be, that it's there for the consumer to use. I guess my only concern is from a parental standpoint is making sure that information that is out there is in certain sections, and as a parent to make sure that you know what your kids are doing, and when they're in the library. And I know from my own background as a parent, I would want to make sure that they're being watched and attended to at the library. So.
Thank you. Terry, you're up next.
As a board, we hire the director of the library and prepare the budget. We do not specifically choose materials. Not everyone who works in a library is a librarian professional. Accredited librarians who are trained in collection, they view thousands, our staff reviews thousands of books and materials each month, viewing a wide variety of headlines and topics. They select materials with a diversity of thought and opinion to stay balanced. There is access to a variety of information in a variety of formats, so patrons can be aware and make decisions for themselves and their families. And we are a public library. We are specifically open to the public so that people can continue to learn their whole life and see both sides of questions and choose materials that interest them, or choose materials and learn something about another side of the question.
Thank you. All right, we have one more question kind of in this vein, and it is, and this is a long one, I'll read it twice. And be prepared, Jillian, you'll be going first on this. Considering the strong differences of opinion in the community about books and programs offered at the library, how would you determine which voices should receive the most weight in considering what the library's offerings are? Considering the strong differences of opinion in the community about books and programs offered at the library, how would you determine which voices should receive the most weight in considering what the library's offerings are?
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I think for many years, many people thought the role of library trustee is like, oh, that's nice. They're advocating for books and wonderful things. And so there are strong differences, and it is an important role. And you want someone in that position who is compassionate and caring and thoughtful and respectful and is willing to listen to various viewpoints on things, because there are differences in the community. There are opportunities at our library to have some programs, and I think that we should have a balance and have opportunities for programs that are maybe of the opposite vein. And so it's, you do your best to share with the board and your library director what you're hearing in the community. You do your best to kind of aggregate all of those voices and see the direction of our community. So it is a very important role. You do need someone who is thoughtful and careful and respectful, and so it's very serious. You should take the voting very seriously when you're selecting your library trustees.
Thank you. John, it's your turn to answer.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna, once again, approach it from a internal audit perspective, and that is just making sure that if there's any gaps, you know, that those gaps are covered, making sure that, you know, that there's a needs analysis performed, and if those needs are not being covered, that in fact, you know, we're covering them, that we're open, and we have all the information that a person might need in the community. So I think that's really important, and I think that's an important role of a trustee for the library.
Thank you. Terry?
Public comments is listed at the top of our agenda at our monthly board meetings. Each resident is allowed 10 minutes to speak as long as our code of conduct is followed. As a trustee, I listen carefully to concerns and questions. I certainly support access to information, free press, free speech. If I am approached by a member of the public, depending on the setting, such as a public place, I will listen respectfully, and depending on the subject matter, possibly direct the individual to a proper library personnel if it's a question I can't answer. If necessary, I would request the individual send me an email with the details of their request. I go to a lot of, almost all the public events for the library, whether they're here or at other locations. I take back things that people tell me to my board, and I am a good listener, and I am accessible, and I will work with anybody and talk with anybody who that's what I was elected to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Matthew?
All right. So I don't think just to speak frankly with everybody, I don't think it would be a shock to say that we all hold our own values on things. My values may be different than your values. My values may be different than my other candidates. The way I raise my children may be something that you see as the way you wouldn't want to raise your children. But I don't see my values reflected in the current board with a few notable exceptions. And so, yeah, will I listen to people with other values than my own? Absolutely. I will give their opinions consideration, but certainly I'd like to see values that are closer aligned to the values I personally hold reflected in the decisions that the library board makes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next question. What challenges does the continued growth of internet usage pose for the library, and what can be done to prepare for or mitigate those challenges? I'll read it one more time. John's going to be going first after I read it another time. What challenges does the continued growth of internet usage pose for the library, and what can be done to prepare for or mitigate those challenges? John?
Well, I think once again it comes back to maybe a needs analysis, making sure that everybody has the accessibility to the resources of the library. If they don't have maybe internet or don't have some of the things that they might need for that information, that it can be provided to them. I think that's very important from the perspective of what I was referring to earlier, which is that digital divide. Yet some people might have those resources where others might not. So I think it's important to dig deeper and find out, you know, why they cannot access, can't access, information. So if it's internet related, as to how we can address that as a board. So
Thank you. Terry?
Technology just keeps speeding forward. Libraries are now a source of technology. So many people have access on their phones and their iPads and their computers. Part of our second floor renovation is going to be updating the whole computer area. We are keeping an eye on AI, artificial intelligence. We also are going to provide digital training and services so that people will have specific programs upstairs and materials so that people can learn the new technology as fast as it's coming. It's important that I feel that our director and our board are very resilient, and we keep a close eye on what's coming in the future, and we're planning for it already in the upstairs. That 25 years ago, some of these things didn't exist, so we need to change the space.
Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, so I'd like to take the opportunity to show you all a recently acquired and one of my more prized possessions is this little keychain here. So I mentor some children at Glenbard East through this program called Project Lead the Way, and they 3D printed this up for me. It says East here and Project Lead the Way, PLTW on the other side. I was talking to their engineering teacher the other day, the group that I'm mentoring. They've been working on this project where they're weightlifters, and they're trying to have a device where when they get to the right angle in weightlifting, that it buzzes them and tells them they're at the right angle. And when I talked to them about how they built this thing that they've done, they brought up ChatGPT, which is something that a lot of educators right now are pretty scared about. But these educators in Project Lead the Way have been pushing forward with this technology. They use ChatGPT to write the code that helps them accomplish this goal. So I could go on forever about this.
All right. Thank you. All right, and a last answer on this one is Jillian.
So with the challenges of internet use, you have to be forward thinking and you have to plan. And so I think technology is great until it doesn't work. And the way you make sure it doesn't, that doesn't happen to you is that you have the capacity. And so here at the library, the board has been doing a really good job of taking care of its infrastructure, its technological infrastructure. We are just going through the process of purchasing new servers to make sure everything is running smoothly so our patrons don't have any hiccups when they come to use our digital services. We were also ready for the pandemic when it hit, so we were able to do a lot online because we had already been responding to that need that our patrons had for online materials. We extended Wi-Fi to the parking lot so that people could access Wi-Fi during that time when they needed it, and we did various things so that people could access materials and programming online when they were in a very difficult position. And so it's just making sure that you're preparing the infrastructure, you're responding to patrons, and you're taking also the necessary investments to be in that position.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on now to our last question of the morning. And as a warning, Terry will be going first on this. And the question is, what would be your budgetary proposals to avoid special voter bond referendums to fund deficits in the library budget? What would be your budgetary proposals to avoid special voter bond referendums to fund deficits in the library budget?
Hold on just a second. Wasting my time here. We have, oh, sorry.
We are in excellent shape. We do not plan, nor would I like to have to go to a referendum for the library. We have long-range planning, our capital assessment plan, our strategic plans. We were able to count down for the chillers and replace them right on time. We have no outstanding debt. we are very careful about spending our money, and we do everything we're supposed to do. I work with the financial director. We are totally solvent, and we are very careful with our money. And we were even able to, I was in favor of the $1.5 million abatement, tax abatement for taxpayers during COVID. Went back to the patrons because we couldn't provide all the services at that time. So, but we do not want to ever go to a referendum.
All right, thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, I am a parent representative on SD 54's Budget and Legislative Committee, and we've had similar discussions to this question on that board. SD 54 is completely debt-free, and a lot of the other districts around we see are starting to issue bonds. But through using our resources wisely, we've been able to avoid that. And you know, are those tools there for the future? You know, potentially. There are certain things that, like TIFs on the city level, that make it hard for us to, for library, school, fire districts, police districts, to get their fair share of money from the taxpayers. But I think, you know, are those tools there to use? Yes, if we need them in the future, but I'd rather avoid using them. And so that's the mindset I would have going forward.
Thank you. Jillian?
So I think that the results speak for themselves of what the board over the past many years has been able to accomplish. Our library does not carry any debt, as you can see on your property tax bill. We also don't have anything owed to pensions as well. So a wise board was able to convert it to a defined contribution system. So it's not a defined benefit system at the end. So we know our costs, we're able to plan for them, we know exactly what we need, and we ask for it from taxpayers. And when we can, we return dollars through the abatement that we passed a year back. And so we're starting also to see the monies we do have and use those to make improvements to our infrastructure. We have a large building, we have important infrastructure, boilers and chillers and things behind the scenes that keep our library heated and cool and working. And so there's things that we've just planned for, and that's why it's possible for our library to be debt-free.
Thank you. John?
Well, I think this is where it's important to have financial oversight and someone who has that capability. I think it's the ability to know that you're meeting the taxpayers, you're meeting their needs now and the future, that you're planning for things as you go along, that in essence you are a good steward of the taxpayers' money, that you know you don't have debt, and that you are certainly looking out as to what expenses there might be for now and in the future, so that you can properly address situations as they occur. So.
Thank you. All right, thank you all for your thoughtful answers to those questions, and now we will be moving on to our closing statements. Again, each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing, and we'll be starting this round with Matthew.
Sure. So again, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody. It's not only the people in the audience, League of Women Voters, library, obviously, but also hello.
Just cut out.
Just cut out. Oh, is it? Oh, low battery. It's okay. I can speak loud. That works too. Okay. Also, as well as a thank you to all my fellow candidates, because this is putting yourself up for something like this is not an easy thing to do, and so I appreciate everybody here. If you want to learn more about you know, the values that I talked about earlier, the types of experience that I have specifically, or you know, talk more about you know, my little keychain there, I'll be available around for some time today. Come up and talk to me, and yeah, for the people watching, you can get a hold of me at facebook.com/Matthew Smith for STDL.
Thank you. All right, Jillian, you're closing.
So Jillian Rose Bernas Garcia, I'll be second among our library on the ballot library candidates. And I think that I'm the best candidate for the job for 4 different reasons. Demonstrated results, I spoke a little bit about those. Experience, having served before. Passion, so I'm really passionate about being a voice of my community on the board. And then a reason, and that reason are my 2 children and my husband, that I want to make this the best community for them to grow up in and live. And so I ask for your vote, April 4th. Early voting starts on March 20th. If you're able to help out or interested in learning more information, you can go to votejillian.com. Again, Jillian Rose Bernas Garcia for library board. Second position on the ballot, votejillian.com. Thank you.
Thank you. John, your closing statement?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank this forum. I think it's important to get across the thoughts and ideas of the candidates. You know, in this election for Schaumburg Township District Library, the voters have a choice to make. Obviously, when looking at characteristics and qualities of candidates on a list, I hope you make your choice based on whether the candidate is dedicated to the community, determined to provide that business process oversight, that the Schaumburg Township District Library can continue to be that cornerstone of our community, really as an educational and cultural resource now and in the future. And quite frankly, I hope you consider me to be the candidate that you're looking for.
Thank you. Terry, your closing statement.
I have nearly 8 years of institutional knowledge and experience to offer. I'm actively working to maintain our highly accredited status. The library portion of my real estate tax bill is 3.5% or $290 for 2022. I consider this to be a very good return on my investment. I am able to devote the necessary time to do the job of trustee. I work well with others to support a common goal. Proper growth and management has been the policy of the library board in the past decades and continues to be the case today. I am easily accessible. I am motivated to serve by a sense of stewardship. The role of trustee comes with the promise to always make decisions based on what is best for our 3 libraries and the communities they serve. To do otherwise would betray the public's trust. I thank you, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Thank you so much, candidates. And now, as per our league rules, candidate Erin Flanagan Davies has sent a representative to read her statement with us. The statement is limited to 3 minutes, and it will be read by Anita Forte Scott. So come on up.
Good morning. I'm Anita Forte, current Schaumburg Township District Library Board Trustee. Library Board Trustee candidate Erin Flanagan Davies asked me to read the following statement as she cannot be here this morning. League of Women Voters of Palatine, fellow candidates, members of the press, and members of the community. I am very sorry that I cannot be here to speak to you in person this morning. In September, I committed to teach a religious education first grade class at St. Matthew's on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Unfortunately, there are no vetted substitutes for the classes this year, so I must be there for the children or the class would be canceled. In 2019, I was appointed by the Schaumburg Township District Library Board to complete the last 1.5 years of former trustees Jerry Bromley's term. I wanted to volunteer to be on the board to ensure the high standards and forward thinking of our township library was maintained. I also wanted to ensure that the board was a good steward of our taxpayer money. And I wanted to ensure that our 5-star award-winning library, including the central location in Schaumburg where we are today, and the branches in Hoffman Estates and Hanover Park, remained committed to its mission, which is providing relevant information, books, media, technology, and programs for all ages in a safe and friendly environment through the service of well-trained staff. During my time as library trustee, I was part of the board that hired a new executive director, reviewed and updated all of our library policies and procedures, reviewed and modified the annual budgets, returned money to you, our taxpayers, through a $1.5 million abatement, reviewed processes and procedures for employee overtime pay, I advocated for the library throughout the community, and most importantly, I worked diligently with all of my fellow board members and the library director to navigate through the pandemic. Together, we worked hard to figure out ways to keep the library open and safe using all available methods, including Zoom classes and meetings, curbside pickup, mail delivery of materials, expanding our selection of ebooks, audiobooks, streaming services, electronic materials, and modifying the building to keep patrons and staff distance, yet still accessible. In addition to my previous library trustee experience, I have the knowledge and ability to serve you, our community, and the patrons of our library with professionalism, care, and understanding. You will be choosing 3 library trustees during this election. I ask that you vote for me, Erin Flanagan Davies, on April 4th. When elected, I will once again bring the knowledge I have gained from all of my life experiences to the library board. If you'd like to learn more about me, please visit my website, librarytrustee.com. You can even send me a message, as I would love to hear from you. Thank you. Thank you again.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, candidates. And I want to thank all of you for your participation today. This is not easy. Thank you, audience, for your great attention this morning as well. We'd like to encourage all our candidates to recycle their signs. And anybody else who has a sign to recycle your signs. If you're not registered to vote or you have questions about voting, we have some information out in the hallway at our table, so I encourage you to stop by. On behalf of the League of Women Voters and the Schaumburg Library, thank you all for coming, and don't forget, early voting begins Monday, March 20th, and regular voting, election day is April 4th. We have further information on our website, the League of Women Voters of the Palatine area. Please participate in democracy by casting your ballot, and remember, your vote is your voice. Thank you all so much.